Welcome to Break Free from Corporate, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you business success secrets from leading entrepreneurs with one thing in common. They left the corporate world, became their own boss, and are now living incredible lives. To access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.
Well, hey everyone, it's Gavin Sequeira here, and welcome to another exciting episode from Break Free from Corporate. And I've got a guest all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada. Her name is Gail Swift. Gail, are you there?
I am here, Gavin, and glad to be here.
Wonderful. Now, Gail is someone I've just recently come in touch with, but I'm really impressed with what she's doing. And I'll just give you a little bit of a background, and I'm sure Gail will fill us in a little bit more. But her journey's been really remarkable. She's worked in corporate, so she knows where all of us sit. She's walked the path before. She's a mom. She's got kids. She's married. She's done the whole sort of lifestyle. From school and college and getting started in the corporate world. She runs her own business. She's worked in television, I believe, from what I've read about you, Gail. You've done a lot of work in that space. You've worked with youth. You do a lot of work as a youth advocate. And these days you run your own business called Plans to Prosper Coaching. And I'm really keen to talk to you more about that, but also your journey on how you got to this point. So once again, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Gavin. I appreciate being here.
You're very, very welcome. So, hey, let's get back right to the beginning in terms of when what were you doing when you got out of college? Like, did you have dreams of what you wanted to do? Where did all this stuff start? How did you kind of end up here? Take us through the journey.
College wasn't much of an option for me. That was something that I definitely had to do. And I was led into college on academic probation. Since my dad paid cash, I think the college gave some allowances, and I also played tennis for the college. So that was also a benefit for them. It took me about a year to get out of academic probation. And I was going through all my boring courses. And about a year and a half later, I was on academic probation again for grades, about to be kicked out. Mm-hmm. And then actually changed my major. My major was business with a minor in speech and theater. Right. And then I saw that calc was on the horizon, calculus.
Okay. Yes.
And I changed my major. I reversed it. Instead, I have a speech and theater degree and then a minor in business based on that. And when I majored in speech and theater, one of my first assignments was to write and direct a play. Gavin, for the first time in my life, I was willingly at the library for hours on end.
Oh, I love that.
I wanted to research playwrights. I wanted to figure out how to do it. Mm-hmm. And I love asking questions. And when I had my friends as actors be in my production, I asked them very good questions to bring out the character and who they were. And that's the first time in my life I had a taste of what I was naturally gifted in and good at.
That's fantastic, Gail, because a lot of people, don't find that talent or that gift in themselves for many, many years. And sometimes you can go through your whole career and still not really, come to that conclusion, look, I'm really good at this, or I'm really good at that. But that's great that you had this realization quite early on in your career. So where did that take you from there?
That took me home. That took me home after college, and I walked in and I said, Dad, I'm going to be a stage manager. And he said, that's great, Pumpkin. How are you going to make any money at that?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to answer him. I knew that I could and would make money. I just didn't know how. And so based on that information, he said I needed to go into sales, that was the only real way to whatever. And so I was like, how can I combine theater and sales? I'll go into television.
Right. Of course, right?
And that's exactly how I went into television. I went I was living in the Chicago market at the time, and that happened to be the third largest television market out of 215 in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, if you had a daughter my age who wanted to get into the industry, where would you tell her to go? And I went to the news director and I went to the sales director, and I asked them that same question, and they said, target your market from 100 to 140. And so I did. I targeted my market. I sent out 20 resumes and cover letters, and then I sent out another batch of 20 resumes and cover letters, and 2 markets called me back.
Mm-hmm.
I got a call from Lubbock, Texas, and I got a call from Duluth, Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah, and I picked Duluth, Minnesota.
Yeah, I can see that you've done a bit of work there for CBS and where else?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, yeah, right. And you were a sales account executive and a national sales manager. So you really made this happen. You got into sales. You end up taking that advice of combining that sales and media kind of thing together. So how did that work out for you?
I did take that advice, Gavin, and I think we are all so aware on this podcast that just because you're good at something doesn't mean you love it.
Yeah, I know. Tell me all about it.
You lived it. I've lived it. And a
Yep.
lot of listeners have lived it too.
100%.
Yeah.
And so, so you got into sales, and I'll bet you were really good at it because you're a people person. You connect really well. And it's one of the reasons why we're chatting as well, because I was really impressed when when we reached out to you or you reached out to us. And I just loved the way you came across really naturally. And, you've got a real skill for connecting with people. So yeah, you were in sales. I bet you did really well. So, what was the turning point? Because, Gail, this is the thing that a lot of our listeners struggle with. So they're all in careers. Some of them like what they do. Some of them love what they do. And some of them are not that happy with where they're at, but they might be good at it. So, when did the light bulb switch for you to maybe try or do something else or go after something you were more passionate about? Walk us through that light bulb moment for you.
Gavin, it's going to be a little different.
Okay.
I'm giving you kind of a heads up.
Sure.
It's going to be a little different, okay?
That's okay. We like different. We're all about different here.
So it was obviously it's kind of a grooming process. It was a grooming process for me, and I had continued to fill my closet with awesome shoes and awesome clothes and trips and cars and vacations and parties and dinners, buying everything that I think I could probably buy. And it seemed like the more I bought, the shorter the satisfaction train behind it was.
Yeah.
And that was like, my gosh, okay, that didn't last as long as whatever did before. And so I noticed it kept getting shorter. And over time, it was just kind of a nudge. It was just, I would say like I was being groomed. It took 2.5 years of grooming, of like thinking and wondering. And on my side gigs, which I know that you talk about that, I loved stage managing shows still. So I decided to stage manage shows. And that's what I did to fill my tank emotionally on the side. But the turning point, there was a moment, there was a time and some things that happened. I had gone through infertility for years. I would say I was pregnant for 4 days, and then I was pregnant for 20 weeks and then 13 weeks. So that whole process took about 5 years.
Wow.
And during that process, I would say through those 3 miscarriages, one of the main reasons that the doctor said that I was miscarrying was stress.
Oh.
And I was a national sales manager at the NBC affiliate at the time in Madison, Wisconsin, which is the 84th largest market out of 215. So kind of a medium-sized market.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that I was pretty stressed out, and I had gone through some pretty, I would say, advanced pregnancies. And in the last miscarriage, I am a believer. So I believe in Jesus. And at that moment of the 3rd miscarriage, I audibly heard him say, "Hey, Gail, we can keep going for the next 5 years on this, but you have to give me control. This is my baby, not yours. And that took me a long time because I really liked my shoes and my parties and my things that I was doing, and I got everything I wanted. And so I was used to getting what I wanted, and this I couldn't get on my own.
Right.
So Gavin, I had to release the grip on the control.
Yes.
And there was no real evidence as to why I would believe God at this point, but I really didn't have anything left. So I did. I actually believed him, and not coincidentally, a week later, my general manager called me into the office and said, "Hey, Gail, next year is going to be a political year. We're going to need you to get a 32% market share. You're at 28 right now." I said, "But I'm making my budget at a 28. I said, "I don't understand. Why do I have to go to a 32 in a political year? That totally means I'm going to lie. I'm going to lie up and down every day."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, like basically, if you don't do it, there are plenty of people who would." And so
yes,
that was all I needed, Gavin. Like I was not, I don't lie. I did not lie.
No,
I'm a big thinker. And I said, okay. And I went home and I talked with my husband, who was making less than half of what I was. And he said, "Go ahead." He said, "Go for it. We'll figure it out. We'll sell the house and we'll move and we'll figure it out."
Wow. Yeah. That's a pretty major life-changing decision right there, isn't it? I mean, it's a pivotal point. You either, once you make a decision to go in one direction, especially with a decision like that, you either regret it down the track, or you go, "You know what? I'm really glad I stuck to my guns and I went that way, and I held my integrity." And I'm like you, Gail. I'm a lousy liar. I could, but you'd be able to read it on my face. I'd be terrible at poker and, games like that. But really, really interesting how the political landscape can make you make choices like that. And one of the major reasons I left corporate, because I couldn't play the political game. I got to a certain point of success just like you. And you know what? Everyone around me said, "Hey, Gavin, you're doing really well." I had an MBA, 2 degrees. I had a team. I was, really successful, just like you. And then to get to the next level, I had to be this political animal, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. And I said, suddenly didn't fit in the cage anymore. I had to be, and so I totally hear what you're saying. And I bet a lot of our listeners are probably going, "Oh, geez, I wish I had the courage that Gail had." But tell us a little bit more about, okay, so you came up, you were faced with this decision, and then what?
Well, so it was so clear what I had to do. And so I wrote my resignation letter, and he was shocked. And at this point, I didn't have a baby, I wasn't pregnant, and I didn't have a job. So what is going on? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? But the reason that I did was based on a verse, Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have, plans to prosper," which is what I named my company after. And that's the whole reason, that's the name of the company. But I remember my dad came to visit me like a week or two around this whole time. And I introduced him to my assistant and showed him my office, and he met my team. And I walked out and I said, "Hey, Dad, this isn't working for me anymore."
Yeah.
And he pretended like he didn't hear me, Gavin. He's like, he kept walking. He's just, he's like, "I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense, right?" It didn't make sense. And so I turned in my resignation, and I had to sign a non-compete, which was fine. I wasn't going to do anything in the industry anyway. So I left, and I read The Purpose-Driven Life. I worked on a farm, and I worked in a women's shelter.
Cool.
As a triage place, just to go to if they were being abused and they needed to get out soon. And so a few months after I left, I became successfully pregnant.
Isn't that amazing? When you take out stress from your life, isn't it amazing how your body just starts going back to doing what it's always meant to be doing, And,
right.
That's great.
Right. I didn't know, I guess I was under that much stress until I was having that many problems.
I totally hear you. It's incredible. The minute we remove ourselves from stressful situations, Our body's able to heal better. We're able to sleep better. Things just work better. We're able to make better decisions. Suddenly life doesn't seem as complicated. It might not be easy, but we're able to find solutions when before we couldn't even think straight,
Right.
That makes sense. I'm not surprised at all.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly. And I'm thankful, obviously, that my husband he was supportive. I have to tell you, Gavin, that was kind of that was a financial adjustment.
Yeah.
That we had to make for a long time. That was a financial adjustment. And I have zero regrets over anything that I did. And I don't miss it at all. As a matter of fact, after my son was born, there was a diner like a mile away, and I started working there for something like part-time on the weekends just to get some exercise and to get out of the house. And my friends are like, Gail, you go from national sales manager to slinging hash. What are you doing? And some of my clients came in and they're like doing double takes, like, what are you doing here? It was just, I just didn't have anything to prove to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the need to prove anything. Like it's all level to me. So I didn't have anything that I needed to show anybody, or I felt like I had done it all. And now I was invested in filling myself up.
I love it. Like I was in exactly the same boat as you. Once I left a high paying corporate job, slightly different circumstances, or similar to some point, but then slightly different in the way that I left. But once I exited, and I had a kind of part-time gig that I was running on the side. I remember when I was writing my first book and I was doing all this really unconventional stuff, and I'm talking like 14 years ago, right? This was during the time of the global financial crisis, when everyone was desperately trying to hold on to their job, and people were, it was just such an uncertain time, almost kind of like where we are today. And a lot of my friends and a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my family members and all were like, Gavin, what are you doing? You've studied so hard. You've worked all your career to this point. When are you going to get a job? When are you going to do why? And I would, like you, I was doing things on the side to just get me by, but I had my focus on what I wanted to do, which was, build skills into an area that I was passionate about. And so I get it. Sometimes you got to walk the path that's less traveled so that you can get to a point that not many people get to down the track. If you do the same thing that everyone else does, you'll get the same results that everyone else does. Right.
Really good point, Gavin.
Yeah.
Really good point. I had a blank slate. I felt like I had a do-over.
Yeah.
And so the three things that I wanted to do in my do-over is I wanted to get certified as a life coach. I wanted to be a Colby consultant, and I wanted to be a crisis intervention worker.
Right.
Those are the three things that I wanted to do. And so a few years later, I did the first one. I got my life coaching certification. And then the Colby certification was kind of expensive, and I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. But people along the way, as I'm sure that happened to you, were like, hey, come do this. And kind of like a Band-Aid on a knife wound. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. And it was nice, and it's great to be wanted, but I didn't want to spend my time dabbling in something that was not going to work. And so I found my no quite quickly.
Yeah, right.
I found my no, thank you. No, thank you. Because I was focused on what I wanted. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew what I wanted, similar to my speech and theater major. I knew I could make money. I just didn't know how. So the Colby certification came along, and my friend got wind of it. She knew it was expensive. So listen to this. One day I got a call from someone, and she said, hey, my friend said you wanted to get a Colby certification. You eventually want to help people find out their best path in life. I'm going to pay for you to go through that certification process because you will do good things in the world, and I believe in you.
Get out of here. That's amazing. Isn't it? Isn't that amazing? But that's
oh my gosh, I dropped to my knees and started crying. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then here's where it gets super interesting. I've always been the kind of person, like obviously we're salespeople, but I've been the person that's a big picture person. So wherever I worked, it was very clear for me to see who matched what role and if they were living up to their potential. Like that's in me. Well, I can do that easily. So I would put people in various positions, and then the company would make more money, and it would be like, hey, thanks so much. That really worked. And so that's what I wanted to do for people, to put them in positions and have them live up to their full potential. Well, in the first Kolbe report I got in 1991, Kolbe is how I take action. I have a pattern of taking action. And with that pattern, Gavin, comes certain careers. And honestly, television is in one of those careers, advertising, on camera TV. And so I followed that list of careers, and I said, that's exactly why I want to be a Kolbe consultant. I want those careers, and then I want to match up where people need to go. Like that's my sweet spot.
Yeah.
So I get to certification after this gift lands in my lap, and that isn't on the Kolbe report anymore. The careers are off the Kolbe A, and I was so mad and so frustrated. Wow. Then, so that was like a bummer. But what I didn't realize is for the last 10 years, Kathy Kolbe has been working on an upgraded career assessment that was slated to come out in like 8 months. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize that. And then the other thing that I wanted to do was work with young people, because people like you and I, Gavin, I want to get them on the front end. I want to get them young and instill the passion so they can find the words to say to their dad, to say to their boss, this is me. This is what I want. This is how I'm most successful, and be able to articulate it, because I didn't have the words. Yeah. So I would like to teach that to young people. And wouldn't you know it, I couldn't work with anyone under 18, but there was a youth advocate consultant coming up within a couple of years. And so I was invited, one of 15 in the world, a few years ago, to be able to work with youth in this capacity.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And that all happened in like the last 5 years. So that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And I like how, so you said a lot of things then that are just really, really, strong points that I just want to reiterate for our audience. I mean, when you said you found your no, sometimes it's easy to say yes to people, isn't it? It's easy to say yes to this and yes to that. And even as business people, corporate people, we're always trying to please someone else. And, even going back to when we were young people, we're trying to please our parents, and we're trying to please the people around us. Saying no is probably one of the hardest things that anyone can do. And the fact that you were able to say that came out of knowing what your true purpose or your why was, and
yes.
I talk a lot about this to my audience, my clients, people I meet. If you know what you want, then it's easy to see what you don't want. When you don't know what you want, it's hard to kind of say no to stuff. It's hard to make decisions. And one of the best things you can ever do is just get a lot of clarity in where you're heading. If you know where you're heading, you won't trip up as much. You won't get lost as much. You'll still run into challenges and problems, but you'll find ways to get through it. And I think that was one really powerful thing that you shared. The other one was, you talked about, like a gift just appearing out of nowhere. Now, some people might say, well, that was just really lucky. I have this funny notion, Gail, where I kind of believe in luck, but I also don't. I believe luck happens to people who put themselves in a position time and time again where at some point you're going to get lucky. If you hide away in a basement and never talk to anyone, I mean, it's highly unlikely that something's going to happen to you. If you put it out there and you share your story and you share what it is you want, I mean, you obviously spoke to this friend of yours, told them your dream, or, the fact that you wanted to be a Kolbe consultant, and you would have put it out there, right, to the universe.
Yes.
And when you put it out, I found the right person or people sometimes will listen, and in the right time, it will come back to you. And I'm a big advocate for people sharing their dreams with people, sharing their vision.
Yes.
Not keeping it to yourself, because if you keep it to yourself, you're like the best kept secret, in the world. And who?
Yes.
So I just wanted to pick out those two things. I thought they were really powerful, but back to you.
No, I agree with you, Gavin. People want to help.
100%.
People want to help. And I mean, they want to. And so why not give them the opportunity to say your dreams? Absolutely. People want to be the hero.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay, you figured out you wanted to help kids. I think that's wonderful to find their voice, to be able to speak up and, declare to their parents or their guardians, or even just say, this is what I really want to do. Because I help people really on the other end when they're frustrated adults and they've gotten to a point where like life's just not headed in the right direction. They're not happy in their jobs. Or maybe, things didn't pan out, the way they thought it was going to be. They're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, and hey, I'm not quite where I thought I'd be, and now what? What do I do? I'm unhappy. I'm not enjoying life anymore. That's when I get involved to try and help them find that spark and that passion. You're trying to fix the problem before it becomes a problem.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I just made a connection with you right now. I just made a connection in talking with you. So remember way back when, like a million years ago, when we were talking about me and switching my majors and how I learned that I was good at asking questions?
Yeah.
So one of my topics that I talk about is questions over suggestions for parents at all stages.
Questions over suggestions. I love it.
So I teach people to have, hard conversations, but I teach people how to ask questions instead of make suggestions, and to teach and to decide. I help people decide through questions what works for them and what doesn't. You and I both probably do the same thing.
Right.
But I use my questions now. I still do. So it's in there. Like it might be buried and crusted over, but holy buckets of cheese and rice, Gavin. It's in everybody. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I agree. I think finding the best answers in life, depends on the quality of the questions you ask. And the better you could get at that skill from an earlier age, you're only gonna have an amazing life, because if you can ask good questions right from day one, you're gonna find the solutions, the pathways, you're gonna open up doors. You're gonna be able to get the help you need, or help people who need the help, or whatever it takes, right? Just by asking that better question. And sometimes I also believe, Gail, asking one more question, because sometimes people will tell you things, and if you're listening really well, see, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So I always believe, you should listen more than you speak. And if you can ask that one more good question, it can open up everything for both people. So I think that's a really great point that you make.
I love that. I love that you said that. And one more question, but it keeps people curious, doesn't it, Gavin?
It does.
I'm thinking about the faces of people when I ask them questions. And I think you appear to be super sweet and kind of ease into it. And I have a tendency to get there quickly because I love meat and potatoes. I love the meat and potatoes of the conversation. And I don't have time to talk about the weather. It's just, I'm not a weather kind of girl. So I love the meat and potatoes, and I love helping people decide, even to decide not to decide right now, just know what they're doing instead of having life happen. They can be in front of it. I'm getting off topic, but I put that two together and I love it.
No, that's great. So you made it, you work with youth. You're a big advocate for them making decisions early in life, and you do all this wonderful work. Now, just walk us through I'm trying to break this down for our audience. Like, you've got to this point now. Talk us through what was it like doing this for yourself? Because obviously, when you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you're getting started for the very first time and doing something, there's a lot of challenges. You're breaking new ground in a lot of ways. If you said, you were one of 15 people that got invited to do something, there's not a lot of people doing what you're doing. What's that like? You're not in a room where there's 1,000 people where you can pick their brains. You've got to really think on your feet and how you're going to make this thing work. And like you said earlier on the call, how am I going to make money out of this thing? So walk us through this whole business brain of yours that kicked in. How did you decide? How did you work this out? Was there a plan, or did you kind of just figure it out as you went along? Who helped you? How did that work out?
Changing the educational world is a huge direction and a huge plan. Having people all across the globe that I can send out to schools and entities to teach the Kolbe system to other kids and have them know their ideal career, that's what I do. That's what I do. I am not a graphic artist. I'm not an accountant. So there are a lot of things I'm not, and it's easy to focus on that because similar to school, everyone has an opinion about how you should do things.
Yeah.
Everyone has an opinion. And so for me, I felt like I had to go out and I listened to all these opinions, and then I would get overwhelmed. I'd come back and I'd kind of siphon through what works, what I could do, what I was capable of, and hire out what I wasn't.
Excellent.
So now I know myself. I know how I work, and I know what I want to be doing. So when my virtual assistant or social media team, and they give me a schedule, and this is what I'm going to be teaching, who I'm going to be talking to, what I'm going to be saying to who every day, and not dealing with the logistics, that's my sweet spot.
Gotcha.
That's my absolute sweet spot. So and there's a saying, of course, people say as far as working on the business, you can hire anything out.
Mm-hmm.
I still work on the business, and I'm in the business, of course, but focusing most on what I do best is what I've started to do through the whole thing. So for example, for me, Gavin, my best time of day is the first 4 hours. So like the point of the pie is the best bite of pie. I give my people my best time of day, and I give them 4 hours because that's my best 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I can get it done in that amount of time. I notice that if I squeeze it out or try and force it out later, it's really, really tough, and it doesn't sound very pretty.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I would rather work with 1 or 2 or 3 people very well than 6 to 8 not very well.
Yeah, I love that. And again, a lot of gems that you shared in that little piece there. One, focusing on what you're really good at, and get help from other people. You can outsource things today. You can pretty much outsource most parts of a business. We live in an amazing time, Gail. You know this.
Yes.
Technology is our friend. I mean, if we were doing this 20 years ago, it was such a different landscape. Today, it's just so much easier to do things online and communicate with people. And we're really blessed to be in a time like we are today. And, so that makes total sense. Like you can literally choose what you want to focus your time on. And I love the fact that you said, okay, if the first 4 hours of my day are my best and most productive, I'm going to give that to my clients. I'm going to give that to the people I'm working with, because the rest of the day I can do other stuff.
Yes.
I've given the best that I have. So I'm always staying sharp. I'm always, people are happy on the other end. And then I can focus on all the other things that I need to get done. And I think that planning component is really important. As a business person, as an entrepreneur, you need to think about, what are you good at? Where are you going to spend your time? When are you going to talk to people? When are you going to do this? And when are you going to do that? And there's some really good tips that you shared. So I love that.
Thank you. And I'm always learning. We're always learning and growing and evolving, but you're right about the times.
Mm-hmm.
You can outsource. You can outsource anything. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is so helpful. You don't have to be all things. And I know how I am, so I know who needs to fill in the gaps and what they need to be like. So, but if I have consultants working with me, it's kind of on a project basis, and they go out and they can do the work and then come back. So that makes it easier too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think once you've got clarity and focus, I mean, you know exactly who to engage, when to engage them, how long to engage them for, all of those different things. So I think that, I don't know whether that's maybe a trait that that comes out of being in sales or something like that. But, it's definitely a really great skill to have. And if you don't quite have those skills, we're talking about time management, and we're talking about just focus and planning and all of those kind of skills, I would invest time in getting better at stuff like that. And there's a lot of help out there. There's other podcasts. There's great reading material. There's a book. I don't know if you've come across this book. It's by Brian Tracy, Gail.
Yes.
And yeah, he's written a lot of really good stuff. And I read a lot, and I follow a lot of good leaders like him. And there's a couple actually that I can think of that he wrote. One was Eat That Frog,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is an interesting title, but it's about, whatever is your biggest thing that you need to get done for the day, as mean and ugly as it sounds, get it done first up. Just hit it hard, get it over and done with, and the rest of your day is going to be so much easier. Don't put off the hard jobs right till the end, because like you said, your best part of the day is your first 4 hours. If you left the most important thing that you needed to do right till the end of the day, you're not giving your best attention and effort towards it. So that's one tip I could share out there. And then, the other one was Flight Plan, which was a book he wrote that talked about just planning and having focus. And, it's amazing. We can get on an airplane and the pilot can tell you, Gail, we're going to leave Las Vegas and we're going to arrive in Chicago and we're going to arrive at exactly this time. How do they know this? Because they've got a plan. They know exactly which way they're going to go. And if there's a bit of turbulence here and there, they can adjust the path, but they know exactly the direction they're heading. And we can use that analogy in our lives and in our business. And it seems like that's your philosophy as well.
It is. And I have to say, I can't believe I forgot to tell you about an epic fail. So after this gift, I can't believe this is huge. This gift that was dropped into my lap of being a Kolbe consultant that someone paid for. So Gavin, I went to get certified, and on the last day, Kathy Kolbe was in the room, and I remember raising my hand to answer a question, and the way that she looked at me told me that I didn't get it.
Oh.
She looked at me like, you just sunk your ship. So 2 weeks, like a week later, I got a letter in the mail saying, I'm sorry, you are not ready to be a Kolbe consultant. You need to, for the next 6 months, Gavin, I had to reread, do Kolbe A's on my dime, research papers, videos, and prove that I knew the concept. I failed. I flunked out of certification and I wanted to do it. Like I thought I had this in the bag, right? Like this is my jam, and I flunked. What?
Yeah.
It was just an amazing, and I got that letter and I was mad, but she was right. She was so right. I didn't get it. And I voraciously, similar to being in the library, I voraciously read through the research papers and wanted to know more. I couldn't get enough information.
Right.
And that is why I was chosen to be one of the 15 to work with youth, is because I am always learning, always asking questions in this capacity. I love what I do. But the fails, it's a given for me. It's like a given. If I'm not failing, I'm not learning.
I love that. That is a really, really key thing right there. There's no shame in failing. And I love that you shared that story, because life's not rosy, guys. Nothing ever works out exactly the way we want it. I mean, if it does, that's great. But life will throw challenges at you just to see what you're made of, right? And I have a feeling that that was a test for you, because you could have easily given up. A lot of people would have, most people would have been disheartened and gone, you know what, this isn't for me. Maybe I'll do something else. And then she would have turned around and gone, you know what, I'll just have to find someone else to fill those shoes. But you didn't give up, and you wanted it that badly that you fought hard, you studied harder, and you made it happen. And so, there's a lesson, guys. If you fail, just find a way to pick yourself up and prove to yourself, not to anyone else, that this is something you really want, and don't be afraid to fail. Failing is good. Right. If you're not failing, like you said, Gail, you're not learning.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's been a lot of challenges that have come your way. I mean, we were talking about just before we actually started the podcast, you were telling me about a trip in Africa, in some part of Africa, that, you had this interesting experience. And I know we're probably diverging a little bit, but I'd love for you at some point to maybe touch on that, because there was something really cool about that story, which I'm sure you'd be able to share with our audience and they can relate.
Sure, absolutely. I was off the island of Lingira, which is actually the Bavuma Islands, like 15-hour plane ride, then an hour bus ride and an hour boat ride to an island. And we were there to serve. We took a team of maybe like 10 or 12. And when we got there the next day, I was moving a wooden desk. I was wearing chacos, and I moved the desk, and it slipped a little bit and hit my big toe on my left foot, which flipped up completely off, hanging on at my base, which was a little painful, honestly.
Ouch.
And I was, of course, bleeding all over the place.
Yeah.
And after I navigated how to sleep and clean that wound on an island off the coast of Uganda, I was cleaning a light, because they fish at night, the wee hours of the morning, between 2 and 5 in the morning, and the lanterns they use are glass. And as I was cleaning the glass lanterns to help the ladies out, I cut myself on the glass, and I was bleeding again. And then shortly after that, the director told me that I needed to get that cleaned again, because the island was 98% HIV positive.
Wow.
And I did not know that at the time. And then he said that we're going to be praying and talking with people that are nearing the end of their life within a couple of weeks in an hour. I was like, okay. So I was trying to think of what to say to these people that are dying in like weeks or a month. And I felt like my words had to match the severity of the situation.
Yeah.
And I was so distraught, Gavin, because I just was like, it seems like the bigger the scenario, the bigger the message has to be. And my director, David Lippiott of We International, comes alongside me, and he's basically just said, everybody needs a savior. Everybody needs to be forgiven and know they are perfectly and wonderfully made. And oh my gosh, he just cut to it, right? He got it so simple, and I was trying to make it so complicated. And the reason that's a big deal to me right now, as I was saying to you before the podcast started, the world right now sometimes can be a little heavy for me and a little thick. And I feel similar to that time in Uganda, that my answer needs to be of equal monumental waves, and it has to be big, but it doesn't have to be big. It has to be right for me. And when I focus on, and when I continue to focus on helping others recognize that their single biggest power in this world is doing what they're meant to do and nothing more, that is beyond powerful, and it is enough. And focusing on that is what I was doing before we started our call.
Isn't that amazing? And the reason I wanted you to share that story, live with us right now, is because I actually think, that is such a huge point that you made. I'm like, save it for the call.
Yes. I was like, what is he doing? Yeah,
exactly. Because, and it's exactly one of the reasons why I do what I do. I had a really great career, Gail, and, I could have just kept going with that. But I really, something inside of me just kept not gnawing at me, not pronouncing that right, but it was gnawing at me constantly, and it was this annoying thing. And I couldn't, it was like, Gavin, you're not doing what you're meant to be doing. You need to find your path. And I did a lot of personal development. I read books. I did Tony Robbins. I did this. I did that. I walked on fire. Sometimes when you're trying to find yourself, I did everything short of becoming a monk in a monastery. Like I really did a lot I walked on broken glass. Gail,
Wow.
I was one of those people, like I was in the corporate world. I was successful, but I was lost. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm a spiritual person. I'm religious to a point. I'm not overly religious, but I do believe there's a higher purpose, and I believe we all have gifts and talents, and we just have to take some time and be introspective and find out what is the thing that while we're on this planet for a very short period of time, what is the best thing we can do, and how can we leave the place better than when we came here. And these were all questions I was asking myself, 15, almost 20 years ago. I didn't have any answers, and I didn't even know what I was going to be doing like today, much like yourself. But I believe sometimes the severity of the problems around us deserve a strong response from people who can give it. And I like the fact that you had to match that severity in your, you had a very short period of time to come up with a message, but I kind of feel like we're going through times right now where people are facing a lot of uncertainty, a lot of challenges, and, we're in unprecedented waters right now. And people like you and I and people who are listening on this call, we need to step up, because if we don't do that, who's going to do it? And we can't rely on someone else carrying the workload. We've got responsibility now to help other people. And that's why I wanted you to share that story, because I think it's really powerful with what you and I do. And hopefully that inspires people that are listening as well.
I sure hope so, Gavin. I sure hope so.
So, tell us a little bit about, with your business that you're doing right now, Gail, how is it? How's things going? Are you loving it? What do you do in your day to day? Give us a typical day for yourself.
Well, I just met with a mom this morning who, she has an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old, and I was helping her find freedom to give the 18-year-old, because he will be super successful from here on out, just by the way he's wired and what he does, and helping her navigate that and alleviate fear and release the grip confidently.
Yeah.
Is one of my greatest joys. And when the student looks around like, do you have a camera in my room? How do you know this about me? How do you know that happens?
Right.
That is, especially when they've been told, similar to me, that the way they work for all their life has been not right and it needs to be different. When they hear for the first time that this is their sweet spot, they were meant to contribute to the world in this capacity, they're like, wow, really? It's
mind-blowing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's so great. And I'm thankful for the tool that is unchanging, that I can discover this and help them know this about themselves. So that's my typical day. Honestly, Gavin, when I'm done working with someone like that, I'm like, I'm done. I don't need to do anymore. Like, it's so rewarding. It's amazing to me. I love it. I love it.
And you know what, Gail, like I'm the same as you. Like at the end of the day, like after I've spoken to, whoever I've spoken to, I'm actually more energized than I am when I started the day. I know you say, the first 4 hours are your most productive and all of that, but I kind of feel like when I get to the end of my day, I'm not what I used to be when I was in the corporate world. I'm not fatigued and tired and exhausted and wishing, oh geez, it's Monday tomorrow, and I'm not looking forward to the week. I love every single person I talk to, because I kind of feel like we have these really awesome conversations, and you're really making an impact on the person's life with everything that they're saying or they're saying to you, or, and so every day I'm doing one more thing towards my mission. And I feel really, that empowers me. Even talking to you right now, I'm learning a lot from you. And, I hope our listeners are picking up all these great tips. And so we're doing things as we're talking now to help other people. And I think that's so powerful. So when you love what you do, it's not really work, is it?
Yes. No, I totally agree with you. No, I completely agree with you. I'm looking at the time right now, and and I'm thinking it's later in the afternoon here, but I am alive and I'm riveted and I have energy talking to you. I agree completely.
Yeah. And so, when people say to me, oh, Gavin, but if I were to start a business, or, when I get to this point, I'm nearing retirement, one of the questions I say to them is like, if you're doing what you love, you wouldn't even talk like that. You wouldn't be saying, at the age of 65, I'm going to retire. I mean, or something like that. You just stop doing what you're doing when you can't do it anymore. I mean, you could be 80 and loving life. I look at Dick Van Dyke, a famous movie actor, and, and he's 95 or 96 and he's still acting. He loves his life. And I love stories like that where people are, they're well into their twilight years, but because they're doing what they love, they're never going to retire. Like, why would you if you didn't have to? And so I love that aspect of what you said. So what I want to do now, Gail, is kind of shift gears a little bit and just, actually, before we do that, one question I did want to ask you is how important is it that you kind of surround yourself with people that are what I call like-minded, people that are doing their own thing, they're on their own journey, they've got their own business or they're entrepreneurs or whatever, but how important is it that you have a group of people like that you can bounce ideas off and, so that you're not kind of doing this all on your own?
Right. So similar to therapy, Gavin, you can be in a group of like-minded people, but if you're not vulnerable, it's worthless.
Yeah.
So to do the work, you need to open up and admit that you suck in this area and you need help.
Right.
And that's super hard.
Sure.
But I'm not good at everything at all. And so that took me a while, but it also being in the room and hearing people's vulnerability then gives you the courage to say what you need help with as well.
Great point. So just putting your hand up and going, you know what, I'm no good at this, but I want to get better. Can you help me? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. Excellent. All right. Let's play this little game called Rapid Response. Now, what I do with my guests when we get to this point is I'm just going to shoot off a few questions to you and just kind of, wing it. Whatever comes to your mind, it's really just to see how you think, and there's no right or wrong. But yeah, we have a lot of fun on this segment. So you happy to go ahead?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So Gail, what is your favorite mode of learning? How do you learn stuff?
Audible and then video.
Okay. Wonderful. Do you have a favorite role model or a hero or someone that you look up to? You can have more than one, but is there anyone you'd like to call out?
The person that takes the road less traveled.
Now who was that?
Well, mostly I applaud and have a ton of respect for youth that are standing up for how they work or what they believe in and making waves.
Love it. Yep. Fantastic. Okay. Now we've talked about a few quotes throughout the call, but is there a quote that just springs to mind, something that it helps inspire you every day when you hear it, that you'd like to call out, or more than one?
Two. Yeah. Kathy Kolbe has a quote that success is the freedom to be yourself. I really like her quote. And then I do like the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Oh, gee, I've never heard that one. That's excellent.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't heard that one. No. I thought I'd heard all of them, but gee, that's a good one. That's fantastic. I love that one. Yeah, together we achieve more, and teamwork makes the dream work, and all of those. Correct. But I really like that one. That's good.
I think if you look it up, it's African proverb, and that's what it'll say.
Fantastic.
Behind it, yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Now,
yeah,
I know you get involved with a lot of causes and charitable work and youth work and all, but is there a name of a group or a cause or a charity or something that you're working with that you'd like to call out for our members and people that are listening?
There is. The name of the organization is called We International, WE International. And this November, I am trekking to Everest Base Camp.
Oh, wow.
With 19 other people. And we are raising money to buy a house for triage girls coming out of slavery to end sex trafficking and gender-based violence in Uganda, and then buying a house in Nepal as well.
That's
for
amazing.
People, coming out of trafficking. So that's what I'm doing this November.
That is amazing. One of my goals, at some point in the future when we can travel a little bit less restrictively, is to get to base camp. And I use it as an analogy with a lot of my clients where I say, let's get your mindset as if you were preparing to get to base camp so that you can climb your Mount Everest. And so,
yes,
and I think you're doing that with a lot of the youth you work with, to prepare them for base camp at an early age, metaphorically speaking, so that they can conquer the world after that.
Yes.
Which I love. Now,
yes.
Tell us something quirky about you that maybe not a lot of people know. I know you stubbed your toe and you broke your finger, cut your finger, and you did all these crazy things. Anything else that maybe someone doesn't know about you that you're happy to share?
I like buying things in twos.
Do you?
Yes. Yeah, it's always, I like having a backup.
Excellent. Well, that makes perfect sense, right? Why settle for one when you can have more than one?
Kind of, yes.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, listen, that was a lot of fun. Now, before we wrap up, I'd love for you to be able to share with our audience, if they want to know more about you, Gail, how do they reach you? Is there a website? Is there an email? Is there, what's the best way for people to connect with either you or the organization, the company that you founded as well? Tell us.
The best way is my phone number, and I can say it online if you want, or
Please
you
do.
can.
Well, it's up to you. If you're comfortable saying it, say it. Yep.
Yeah, 608-833-5482. I'll say it again, 608-833-5482. And my email is gail@planstoprospercoaching.com. Right.
So if someone went to planstoprospercoaching.com, they can still find you. I know you're on social media. I think I found you on LinkedIn, and I'm sure you've got your links in other places as well. But it's Gail Swift, isn't it? That's your last name.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Any relation to Taylor Swift?
No. And when I named my son Tyler, I didn't think she'd be still as popular as she is today. So yes.
Right. Okay. That's awesome. Hey, listen, Gail, I really enjoyed connecting with you. I love the work that you do. I think your story is fascinating. And you're only really at the beginning of your journey. As far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of work to be doing. And you're really at the forefront of changing people's lives as young adults. And I love the work that you're doing with, trying to help women with sex trafficking and building that residence that you're talking about in Nepal. And good luck with your trek to base camp. I'd love to hear, once you've done that, we should definitely keep in touch and share this with our audience as well at some future point.
That would be great. Thank you, Gavin. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Any last things that you want to say? Any tips? Anything you want to kind of end with before we wrap up?
I would. I have a video. It's on Vimeo. It's Gail Swift's Story of Grace. And when you make a move, there are always people that are inspired by what you do.
Awesome.
So, for example, I was on a video and I had people come up to me saying they quit their jobs. They made major changes because I gave them the courage. And every single person listening to this right now has the capacity to do the same thing. So you could free people as well. Yes.
I love it. And if people wanted to watch this video, what's the easiest way for them to get to it?
The video that I'm talking about is on Vimeo under Gail Swift, Story of Grace.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. And on that really positive note, I want to thank you once again. You live in a beautiful part of the world in Nevada, and hope the sun's shining bright on this late afternoon for you. And good luck with everything you're doing, Gail. And let's keep in touch.
I would love it. Thank you, Gavin, very much.
All right. I will stop the recording, Gail. I think I've accidentally hit the end button on my Zoom, but I'm not taking my finger off it because if I do, it's going to disconnect us. But I just wanted to thank you. And listen, what I'll do is I will, when we publish this, which hopefully will be, within the next couple of weeks, I'll send you out an email with a link and, so you can see it. The only thing I ask is, share your story with your audience. Send it out. Send it out to people because this is your story. And I'd love it if you can go and leave us a review on I don't know, do you use iTunes or any of the other stations? I'm not sure.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So, hey, that's so cool. I loved it. And what's your plans for the rest of the day?
You're very easy to talk to, by the way. You're very easy to talk to, and you're inspiring. You're gentle, and you definitely bring out the best in me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is who I am. This is how I was in corporate as well. And, I am not one of those, and I was in sales for many, many, many years. But, I guess this is one of my strengths, which is I love connecting with people, and it's not about me. It's actually about you. And if I can help you, get to where you need to get to, I find success sort of shows up in funny ways, and so, I'd be very interested in your thoughts, Gail, if you want to have a think about how we might be able to collaborate, because I honestly quite like what you do, because you're kind of doing what I do, but you are doing it with young people. Now I do it with, the older versions of them. And if there's a way we can share that story where, you don't want to get burnt out and stressed and, get to the point where, like, even when you said, you were having these miscarriages and this and that, and all because you ended up in that career or that politically charged environment, like, how do you avoid these pitfalls? You and I have seen it. We know people that have been there. I deal with people like that every day. But when you're talking to the young people, it's like, how do we almost share those stories so that they go, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that girl, lady. I want to be free, but I don't want to wait 20 years to figure this stuff out.
Right. Yeah. Hold on, Gavin. Hold that train of thought. I'm going to. I have a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and she's whining, so I had to get her out of the room.
No problem. No, that's all good.
Yes. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I don't know how that would work. I'm trying to think of how that would work. So,
sorry, go on. Yeah.
No. Like the 65-year-old guy that's a gazillionaire who's had a heart attack and lost his family because he's stressed out. Like they need to see you, but on the front end, I don't want that to happen. You can be a millionaire your way.
Yeah.
You can be a millionaire your way. So do it your way and just don't hurt people in the process. People are property.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Have a bit of a think. I mean, it's nothing major, but if we, sometimes I end up doing, like a webinar with people, or I do we do a series of like talk, it could be anything, we might, at some point address a group of people together, like you're the before and I'm the after. Like,
there you go.
You know what I mean?
There you go.
And I'm not necessarily talking about creating extra work for you or for me, but it's almost like, how do we double the impact if we can? And sometimes, you might be talking to young people, but you're talking to the parents of the young people, and the parents could be in the situation like that I talk to. Do you know what I mean? And they might go, I don't want my kids to end up like me. I want them to make smarter decisions earlier in life. And that's why I'm talking to Gail, but maybe Gavin's got something where, like we can combine the both, and the learnings are really powerful. I don't know. I'm babbling on, but I thought I'd just put it out there because I think you're uniquely positioned with what I do, to maybe there's a way we can creatively combine our strengths, our superpowers.
I would agree with you. I like you.
Okay, I like you too. So, but have a think, and I don't want this to be our last call or chat. I really do mean, I talk to a lot of people. I don't do this with everyone because, I love sharing stories, but there's only a few people that you connect with and you go, there's something there. And I don't feel like we connected by accident. Again, I don't always believe in luck. I think things happen for a reason. So have a think about it. Let me know. I'll be in touch over the next couple of weeks. As soon as this thing goes live, you can share it, get your story out to a few more people. Yes. And, we'll keep in touch.
I would love it.
All right, Gail.
I would love it.
Enjoy the rest of your day. I will speak to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Gavin. You too. Change lives.
I will do. You too. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. If you like this podcast and would like to understand a little bit more about what was just discussed, then you're in luck. Simply head over to breakfreefromcorporate.com and we have a fantastic bonus gift waiting for you to download. All we ask in return is that you leave us a review on iTunes and or Stitcher, whichever you use. And lastly, help us share this podcast around with your friends, your colleagues through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, or LinkedIn. We truly appreciate all your support and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode of Break Free from Corporate. Once again, to access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.